Many thanks for staying with us. You're still live with us on Report Desk Africa. Now, as Nigerians persist to make the country better, they are thrown into tougher challenges. The numerous devastating dilemma has been a thing of worry for the citizens. Now, with inflation rising to 33.69%, how exactly will an average Nigerian cope in this staggering economy? Questions, questions, and more questions. But before we give our answers, here are opinions that we were able to gather from financial experts.
Year basis, inflation rose to 33.69%. That's headline inflation. We have food inflation also testing new highs at 40.53%. Year on year, we have core inflation at 26%, and of course, imported food inflation at 34%. What we notice is that for the second consecutive month in 2024, looking at it from a month-on-month basis, we have seen some form of disinflation happen on a month-to-month basis, and that sort of speaks to the fact that the policies that the CBN has embarked upon since the start of 2024 are largely being reflected by the month-on-month disinflation that we're seeing for the second consecutive time. Inflation is still high and will still be something to be discussed when the next MPC happens next week.
That's just one assessment. I can assure you we have so many more. But we are now being joined by News Central's business correspondent, Perpetua Fasome Peter, as she would likely put it, whatever she wants to call that name. Thank you for joining us, Perpetua.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Good evening.
So let's go straight into the question and have a conversation about this. The last time we spoke about the nation's inflation, it was around 29 point something percent, if I'm not mistaken. But now we are on a whooping 33.69. Help us understand what exactly is happening to Nigeria's economy.
All right, thank you so much. And it's a good thing we started with that economic analysis from Nabila. So basically what we have is 33.69% inflation for the year, for April 2024. And of course, for March, it was 33.2. And when you look at that, really, from 33.20 to 33.69, the difference is 0.49%. However, when you look at that's a February to March inflation, it sort of decelerated by 1.5%, and then January to February decelerated by 1.8%. And that exactly is why you heard Nabila talking about how that on a month-on-month basis, we are beginning to see disinflation. Disinflation is that we're not saying inflation is not increasing, but we're saying that it is increasing at a reduced pace. Now, for this, some persons, we have analysts who are saying this is as a result of some of the monetary policy tools that the CBN has sort of deployed. They are saying that this is what is responsible for this form of disinflation. We are saying that's the reduction in the increase. So it's increasing, but it's reduced. I hope that's clear. And then apart from that, there are also people who are looking at the fact that for NBS sort of, to a very large extent, gathers its figures during the first 2 weeks of a month. And when you look at the first 2 weeks of April, that was just around that time that Nigeria's currency was doing very well, and it was seen as the best performing currency, globally. So if you do a sort of if you do an analysis or you do a survey during that time, what you're going to get, of course, will be different from what you would get by the time you get to the 3rd and the 4th week of April. From the 3rd to the 4th week of April, that was when we started seeing, that's an electricity hike in electricity prices. That's the tariff, the increase in tariff. We saw the Band A conversation that happened at that time. It was also at that time we started seeing fuel scarcity, which of course also priced into the prices of transportation and all of that. So at the end of the day, when you look at that figure that was given to us, while on the one hand, we have analysts who are saying, okay, this is because of the monetary policy tools that have been deployed by the CBN. On the other hand, we're also looking at, no, that data was taken from the first 2 weeks of April. Now, you cannot compare the macroeconomic condition or the prices of goods and services at that time to what happened from the 3rd and 4th week of April, because that was when we started seeing some of those things that have actually priced into inflation. So what some of us are expecting is that by the time we see May inflation figures, we may not see that form of disinflation that sort of characterized February, March, and April figures. May figures may sort of, buck the trend. They may not follow the same trend. So basically, that's what we're saying. And this isn't really good because at the end of the day, we're saying that irrespective of this disinflation that analysts love to call it, I mean, Nigerians are not interested in the numbers. They want to see changes. They want to see that when they go to the markets, they can afford goods and services. And that, of course, is what sort of makes sense to Nigerians, not necessarily these numbers. And just like Nabila said, she was talking about how that this will also be a form of consideration for the MPC, that's the Monetary Policy Committee. By the time they will be meeting next week, Monday and Tuesday. And by Tuesday, that's when they will issue a communique telling us what their decisions are. And then we're looking at MPR. A lot of analysts are saying, look here, the MPC, they have said that they will continue to hike rate. And that also has implications. And I remember reading one of their communiques where they were even talking about the fact that this is a trade-off, because at the end of the day, when you increase the monetary policy rate, what happens is that on the one hand, you know, the yield in the fixed income space is going to be very attractive. You're going to attract investors, you know, and a lot of them are going to come in because the yield is very high. And we see that happening already. But on the other hand, there are people who are running businesses. There is the real sector. There is that man who needs diesel. There is that woman who needs generator fuel. There is that man who needs to pay school fees. And all of those things are sort of exacerbated. The prices are quite high. And so it's important that we sort of strike a balance. And that, of course, is what many people are saying. Because, I mean, it's not enough to say you want to fight money supply. You want to do all of these things so that, you know, we can attract foreign exchange. It's okay to attract foreign exchange, but we also need to look at the impact of not just inflation, but also the monetary policy tools that have been deployed by the Monetary Policy Committee.
Okay, I mean, that was a very comprehensive breakdown, honestly. And when it comes to the disinflation, inflation thing, there's one thing that you say that the whole of Nigeria can agree on. Nigerians are not looking at whether the inflation is getting better or getting worse. All they know is that there is inflation. And we also know that there are certain factors that might be contributing to the rise in inflation, albeit it might be reducing at some point or increasing. It's fluctuating all the same. So what would you say those factors are?
Well, talking about the factors that are contributing to Nigeria's inflation, basically food inflation sort of adds. When you look at the basket, there is a basket, an inflation basket that has a lot of items, education, food and all of that. When you look at that basket, food contributes the most. And when we talk about food inflation, I would like us to sort of break it down. Food inflation in Nigeria is an issue, and that is because of insecurity, especially in the agricultural producing areas. That's because of insecurity. And apart from insecurity, we also see a situation where when these food items are finally produced, by the time they move from the north down to the west, we see a lot of money go out. I mean, a lot of cost go into that. I remember listening to Taiwo Oyedele, that's the chairman of the Presidential Fiscal Committee, Tax Reform Committee, and then he was saying something that one of the things they've come to discover is that by the time a truck moves from the north down to the south, 450,000 naira has been paid for tax. And that tax is not even captured. You can't even say which state government or which local government actually got that money. It's just illegal taxes and all of those. So all those things price into the prices of food. So this is very important. That's why insecurity is something that we need to deal with. Now, apart from food inflation, we also have, of course, the removal of fuel subsidy. We also have one other thing which really prices into the prices of goods and services. And that, of course, is the exchange rate. It's something that really needs to be fixed because as the exchange rate continues to fluctuate and all of that, it will affect the prices of goods and services. And that, of course, is what we are seeing. And that's why it's important that these issues are sorted. It's important that we address food inflation. To address food inflation, you need to look at insecurity. You also need to look at, farmers, give them improved seeds. We need to really overhaul the whole agricultural sector, really. We need to do something about it. We need to address logistics. We need to address those when we talk about this issue of illegal taxes and all of that. The federal government needs to address it. The state governments, they need to address this because it's very important that these things are addressed. If they are not addressed, the MPC will continue hiking rates and the foundational or what people like to call the structural issues will still remain. And if the structural issues are there, there is no amount of hike that will change the tide. We need to address the structural issues. We need to do something about them. It's not even enough to say you want to give 500 million naira to maybe people in some sectors. We have the nano businesses. You're giving them maybe 50. You also have people, manufacturers. You have MSMEs that you're giving some monies. Look at that money is not going to be enough. That money is not going to do anything. The most it will do is that some of them are probably going to use those monies to even pay off their debts. And at the end of the day, that has not changed the cost of production. So many things are priced into the cost of production. These things have not been addressed. So if you do not address these issues, there is no way inflation is going to go. Now, that's why it's important that the fiscal authority does something, and they have to do it as quickly as possible. It's not enough to dole cash to people. You need to address foundational issues. So don't just treat symptoms. Treat the issues. I mean, that's what we'd say. It's not too much to ask for.
So I'm more concerned about these foundational issues because it looks as if this current administration just looks for more ways to make money or milk the public, if I can put it in that way. We keep having cybersecurity levy, one tax wave, one tax or upload there, one this there. They just have, and recently there's this airport toll that now has been saying everyone has to pay for it. There are so many things that they keep meting down on the people to make sure that they are getting money from the people. But I'm more concerned about the consequences of how it affects ordinary Nigerians, because the ordinary Nigerian going about their normal duty, how will they cope in 1 month, in 2 months? And let's understand that in the past 3 years, Nigerians have been going through one economic turmoil or the other. I'm not talking about even as a country. I'm talking about as an individual. We moved from the cash crunch. We moved to another fuel scarcity, from there to the foreign exchange, and so many other things. It's like it's never ending. Looking forward, do you think Nigerians can pull through in another 3 to 4 months if something is not done?
Well, talking about that, that's the same question I've sort of posed to as many analysts as I have spoken to so far, and they always say they do not have a crystal ball. But what they can say is that it doesn't look good if this continues for the next 3 months. It really does not look good. Businesses are beginning to complain. Remember, I saw a report from CPPE, that's the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, and they are really saying that, look, they were frantically saying to the MPC that you can't continue to hike rates because those things, they have effect on businesses. We saw results of businesses that came out for the first Q1 2024. Those results were nothing to write home about, apart from the banking stock that sort of did well, because of course they also got some exchange gains and all of that. A lot of other sectors, talk about even the telecom sector, talk about even consumer goods. We saw what the exchange rates did to them. And I'm wondering, for how long are these companies going to continue like this? For how long are these companies going to continue making losses? And then talk about the ordinary Nigerian. I remember how much, my siblings used to pay for school fees, universities. But now that has gone astronomically high, and then you have to pay even more. I mean, talk about every household has sort of, the dynamics has changed in a lot of homes and all of that.
Petra, sorry to quote you. Do we see any part Nigerians themselves are playing in this? Because the truth is, not everything is government. So I was speaking with someone earlier, and he was mentioning that he wanted to board a tricycle recently, and normally the fee is about 300 naira to where he's going to. And all of a sudden, it was about to rain, and the guy said he's taking a 500 naira fee. And he asked him, why did you switch from 300 naira to 500 naira? And he said, can't you see it's about to rain? And these are some of the concerns. Are we saying that because the inflation has hit the economy is now bad, Nigerians are not supposed to be responsible in their own actions too? Because I remember there was a time, even before the forex, foreign exchange crashed or increased at interval at different times, we'll see people who had already stocked up their shops and are selling goods at a particular price, but because they heard that the foreign exchange price had actually jacked up, then they hike the prices of their goods and services. Yes, we can keep blaming the government every single time and saying, oh, the government needs to put in infrastructure, the government needs to put in some things that will make sure that the ordinary Nigerian can actually live its life. But is there no responsibility at all for the citizens of Nigerians?
And sorry to add, I was also going to say that Nigerians are naturally opportunistic in nature. So even when, the dollar came down, a lot of people, once their price has gone up, it has gone up. Yeah. It's never coming down. And some people who even sell things that have nothing to do with the dollar increase their price and never brought it back down.
Okay, so let me begin by saying that, talking about prices, I'll begin with the example you gave of people who had stock even before the exchange rate sort of depreciated and all of that. We also need to understand that by the time you go to the market with, let's say, 1 million naira, you're able to buy certain goods. The next time you're going, 1 million naira will not be enough. You may need to spend up to 3 million naira. Now, where do you want that person to get the remaining 2 million naira from? Go at borrowing? Even when you talk about borrowing, I've been talking about MPR rate all along, and that simply talks about interest rates. The interest rate is astronomically high. Officially, we're at 24.75%, but your bank is going to ask for about 30%. Where is she going to get it from, or where is he going to get it from? Something has to pay. You can't tell that same person to sell the same amount and then at the end of the day she can't restock.
So we are saying emphatically that the customer is going to be at the end of the stick, irrespective of what cutthroat price the seller is
Someone
hoping
has to pay for it. And that, of course, is also why a lot of companies are beginning to, increase prices of their products. Because someone has to pay. You can't tell me to spend all that money and not get it somehow, especially when I have staff to pay their salaries. Somebody has to pay for it. And unfortunately, it's a Nigerian consumer who is paying for it. For the other person who increase the price just because it was about to rain, that's just being opportunistic. I mean, just like Blessing said, that's what that is. I don't have any economic explanation for that one. It's just being opportunistic and all of that. But basically, when it comes to inflation, we can't necessarily blame Nigerians for that. If things are in order, I mean, we have FCCPC, and the other time you saw what they did. They went to Abuja, and then they closed some supermarkets for pricing and all of that. I mean, pricing is not even a big deal. That can be sorted. But what's important is let's get things running first. Let's bring down prices of goods and services. Let's address the exchange rate. We need to address the exchange rate. We need to beef up production. We need to find a way to get more of it. Seriously, we need to get more of Forex so that, we won't have this undue pressure on the Naira, basically, really. If you ask me.
But I'm just going to ask, what do you think are the policy measures that can be implemented long term to, curb the whole inflation problems that Nigeria is facing? And if there are policy measures, what is stopping us from implementing it? Because it's like a lot of times Nigerians, or would I say Nigerian government, likes to drag. Not too long ago, I know that there was a board of advisors, financial board of advisors that were assembled, and we haven't seen any outcome of that yet. So a lot of times we hear that there are plans in place, but we never see any results. We never see any outcome for that plan. So are there measures that we can implement? And if so, why haven't we?
Well, that's $1 million question, really, because there are measures, and just like you said, the federal government has, it has the best brains really on its team. Talk about the fiscal committee, that's the fiscal policy and the tax reform committee. The leader of that particular team is Taiwo Oyedele. He's renowned, we know him. But then unfortunately, it does appear that, it's just maybe what we are lacking here is political will, really, to get these things done. Because we know that committee has also come up with a lot of things. That committee is talking about harmonizing tax and all of that, before it goes through. And then the bureaucracy even involved in all of those things might actually be one of the challenges. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, the oil and gas sector, we really need to do something about it. We need to do something about it. We need to improve production. We can't continue producing 1.3 million barrels per day and all of that. And it's even fluctuating here. This is a time where oil prices are sort of high to a very large extent. And that we're not even keying into it just because we're not producing optimally. What are the issues? What are the challenges? What are the things stopping us from producing optimally? We need to address those things, really, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's getting investors and all of that. And even talking about the oil and gas sector, recently, the federal government also released an order talking about how just trying to ensure that, investment and all of those things are eased and made easier in the oil and gas sector. But again, maybe like they will always tell us, there's a time lag between implementation and result. So we're waiting on that one. And apart from that, agriculture is also something that's very important. However, insecurity is sort of making it difficult, because when I think about the fact that maybe some farmers in some places have to pay taxes to some militant, not militants now, they have to pay taxes, and then they also have to, sometimes they can't even go to their farms for fear of being killed. I mean, these are the issues that when you think about it, then you wonder what can't be done. Really, for me, we need to fix security. And apart from security, we also need to fix electricity. We need to fix power. When we fix power, so many things, I tell you, so many things we're having issues with. All of those issues will fizzle away. Let me not say all of those issues, but a good percentage of these issues will fizzle away if only we can fix power. Fix power, fix insecurity, and of course, ramp up production, that's oil and gas production, and also make the environment good enough for businesses. We need to harmonize taxes. I mean, I can't imagine if I'm probably bringing goods all the way from the north to Nigeria. I said to Nigeria, from the north to Lagos, and they have to pay 450,000 to some unknown human beings. I mean, to some people that do not even have a record, to some illegal tax collectors. I mean, that doesn't even speak well. That's something that the federal government has to fix. These are issues that we need to fix. We need to get these people off our roads because we need to make Nigeria work for everyone. And that, of course, for me, is the answer. Illegal
tax collector businesses, just on a lighter note, I want you to give us an advice, because for the ordinary man on the street, what kind of business would you, since the consumers are the ones that are always paying, so the best deal right now would be to always be the seller. So if you were to give an advice to an ordinary man on the street right now, what kind of business do you think they can pick up? And maybe I might also benefit from this. Blessing is already made.
Okay. I'm wondering the advice I'm going to give to the ordinary man on the street, because Nigerians have coped for too long. I mean, since May 2023, when the president made those two announcements talking about subsidy has been removed and talking about liberalizing the foreign exchange market and all of that, Nigerians have gone through a whole lot. We can't continue coping. This is not even the time to cope. We have coped and we are tired of coping. We just want things to work. And if you're talking about what advice I should give, does the person even have enough money to start a business? I mean, it's difficult. I need to know who you are. I need to be able to maybe profile you to know the kind of business you can do. What maybe you should just go and put your money in the fixed income and then wait for 1 year, 2 years, and the yield. You know, it's a lot. I really need to know who the person is, profile the person to know what will suit the person. But generally, if you're talking about coping, we cannot cope again. They should fix all this wahala.
So I think that I'm going to approach Perpetual for a personal one-on-one consultation.
Yes, blessings. Stop hoping and coping.
Thank you so much, Perpetual Fasumi Peters. You know, with the passion with which you speak and the factual accuracy, people will know that you are News Central's business correspondent for a reason. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us a breakdown of what's happening. All right, you're still watching Report Desk Africa. When we come back, we'll be taking a look at Rivers State political impasse. So in case you're planning to go anywhere, stay still.
And welcome to the second half of the show. If you're just joining us, you've not missed so much. Just the first segment where we spoke about the current economy of Nigeria. And now we move on to Rivers State, as the governor, Siminalayi Fubara, is demanding total control of his state. At least that is what his recent actions have implied. In the governor's words, we have now set Otapiapia to finish the rat. Otapiapia in local palace means a rat poison to finish the rat. And the rat in this case is the people who are against his government. The rift between the sitting governor of Rivers State and his predecessor, who is the current minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has gone on for long. Now, despite presidential intervention, Fubara has said that he wants to ease the state debt burden by probing Wike's administration. Meanwhile, Fubara's cabinet grows lean as 5 more pro-Wike commissioners quit, bringing the toll to 9. Let's take a look at some of the comments Fubara made in the speech.
Brand new Attorney General of our DSTV. Why are we bringing you at this very critical time? You have a big tax. As it is today, in the local palace, they said the jungle has matured. We will be setting a panel of inquiry to investigate the affair of governance.
God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you.
So brace up. Brace up. I'm not going.
Well, that's Governor Siminalayi Fubara there, talking tough and, of course, appointing a new Attorney General for the state. And he did mention governors, but, of course, knowing the political impasse that has been ongoing between him and his predecessor, of course, that is one of the person people refer he's talking to. And we have a familiar face on our DA today, Bernard Akede, who joins us live from Rivers State, and that's why he's not on this seat where I am right now, the capital, Port Harcourt, to discuss this. Thank you for joining us, Bernard.
Thank you for having me, Nee. This used to be you, and that used to be me.
I'm the only constant factor in this equation.
Oh, yeah, you keep saying that. There's a switch in role. Anyways, let's just go straight into this. We've heard Governor Siminalayi Fubara talk tough, and he has been, his actions has also implied his meaning to do and take the tough decisions. Now let's see the reactions. You were on ground. What are the people saying about this latest development? We know, as I said, when I'm always on that side of the divide, I would say premium content from River State comes every month. But we know that this affects the life of people. What are the people saying there?
Well, first of all, I'll start by saying I have not seen any Otapia rates yet in River State, and maybe because they are using all of them in the government house. So maybe that's why we haven't seen any just yet. But besides that, earlier today I was on the news and I did speak that the people in River State basically just want governance as it should be to continue in the state. They pretty much are tired of the topsy-turvy type of governance going on. So there's the political class right now who are divided between the Wike faction and then the Fubara faction. And of course, depending on which side of the divide you belong, if you're in the political class of River State, that will determine your own political activities at the moment. But for the people, there's a third group. So besides the Wike faction and the Fubara faction, there are those who just want governance to take place as it should and when it should. Remember that Fubara has just about 2 weeks to mark 1 year in office. And then, well, presently now we're in the residence of former Senator Magnus Abe, who ran for governorship elections under the flying the flag of the SDP. But now he's with the APC. Hopefully we'll have him join Politics HQ later this evening so our viewers can still watch. And even amongst the people who are here, because there's a good number of people here, it's still political conversations that they're having, basically talking about the happenings, of governance within the state. They just want things to go as planned. You have Fubara talking tough, like you said, saying things are about to change. He's been appointing new people, and then some pro-Wike people have also left. It's clear that the drama has not ended yet. There's still going to be more to happen, basically. Now, it's either you align, as the way I'm seeing it in my prediction, align with the Fubara government if you are in power right now and decide to stick with that, or those who still have faith in Wike, governor of the state, being that he still has some control, seemingly, will decide to stay there and hope that things still favor them. But whichever way it is, the political tension in the state is still ongoing and hasn't ended just yet. And from my prediction, there's still more drama to come.
Okay, Bernard, something seems very baffling, though. Sometime this year, we thought that the governor of Fubara and the FCT minister buried the hatchet. Although, even Davido and Whiskey were drinking together one day, and then the next day they're throwing jabs. So I'm not fazed by that. But out of curiosity, what exactly changed? Was it Fubara's decision to probe Wike's administration that spurred that development?
So I think, well, first of all, yes, we can say that that's what spurred that development. But I think at some point, yes, regardless of who you are or who your godfathers are, to an extent, the realization that you hold power will eventually come to play. And I think that's where Fubara is. So Fubara had been the governor for the past 1 year, or almost 1 year. The cloud of Wike has still been around him and the state and governance within the state. At some point, he decided to be, I don't want to use the word submissive. Let me say he decided to be obedient to his predecessor. But later, I think, he woke up to the realization that, look, I am the #1 citizen of the state at this point. I should be able to call the shots without, looking over my shoulder, thinking about the person who was here before. So when they decided to bury the hatchets, to borrow your terms, everything seemed fine and seemed nice, but it seemed like he did that basically to also still please his predecessor. But now, depending on the things that have happened, that have gone on underground or have happened in the past, I think the governor currently now wants to completely take charge of his state, regardless of who was here before, and is deciding to do it with an iron fist. And that's why we're seeing resignations of certain commissioners who are in alignment with the ex-governor, basically. I think people are just beginning to step away because they see that now he's trying to take charge, and nobody is sure of what the future holds, particularly if you are not 100% in his camp.
Not many governors have been shot at. Not many governors have been, there has been so many attempts to impeach. Not many governors have gone through being sprayed hot water, alleged hot water. Not many governors have had to go to the federal level to get intervention in the matters of their state. Not many governors have had to fight godfatherism as Governor Siminalayi Fubara has had to do so. But there is a major concern. Now, the cabinet members are quitting. Let's not forget that these are the cabinet members that he had removed earlier. And there was an intervention that came in and said, oh, they need to come back, you need to put them in a particular position. But then he reassigned them to other cabinets, and now they started resigning. The loyalty lies with one person or the other. But I'm more concerned about the debt situation that he wants to probe, noting that Siminalayi Fubara played an active role. He was the accountant general for former Governor Nyesom Wike throughout his administration. So how easy is it for him to wash his hands clean of whatever he might be alleging the former governor actually took or actually spent or is in-depth into in terms of corruption? What are people saying on the street? I do know that back in Rivers, they used to have an elders forum. They used to have these conglomerates and all. And of course, there's also the fear of him demolishing the lawmakers' apartments. That is even a very big one. On the ground there, do they support this probe he's about to delve into? Bernard, I don't know if you heard me. I said, from what you've noticed there, do you think the people, River State people, are in support of the debt probe Governor Siminalayi Fubara has launched? Noting that he was an active member in the administration of Governor Siminalayi Fubara.
I think we've lost
him there.
It would have been good to hear that answer, but of course, we'll be looking to Bennett and, of course, the team over there for more information, especially on Politics HQ tonight, to get more updates on what has been happening. I'm interested to know where the fallout, came
Sincerely.
from, honestly. But yeah, thank you, Bennett, for giving us the updates, and of course, we'll be hoping for more updates as time unfolds. So because of our time, we will go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll be taking a look at our crystal ball to tell you what to expect in the coming week. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back. If you're just joining us, well, I would say that's a tad bit too late because we've had two very crucial conversations. First of all, the economic situation in Nigeria. And of course, we were taking a look at the tussle right there in Port Harcourt, where we see the Rivers State, I don't know if I'll call it a power-hungry nature of politicians, or battle for power, basically. And Bernard was helping us to dissect it. And earlier on, Perpetual also helped us to look at the economy carefully. But now we're going to take a look at our crystal ball, like I mentioned earlier, and tell you what to expect in the coming week. So first up on our forecast is from South Africa, where the president signs new healthcare bill into law. The Ramaphosa has signed a controversial national health insurance bill into law, and the new law aims to provide quality universal health coverage to all South Africans. Now, concerns are that its execution will be undermined by widespread corruption and budget restraint, which see the country struggling to fund basic services.
And in Nigeria suspends cybersecurity levy following a widespread public outrage. The president suspended a planned levy on electronic banking transaction. And the information minister Mohammed Idris said the levy, which was to commence in 5 days, has been altered by the presidency to ease the burden on the citizens.
And now, the Central Bank of Nigeria had last week told financial institutions to charge 0.5% of the value of electronic transfers to raise money for enhancing cybersecurity in the country. That's just for more context. But also, still on our forecast, the Emirates Airlines has announced plans to recommence flight operations to Nigerian airports starting from October 1st, 2024. Following a 2-year hiatus from operating in Nigeria, the airline announced this via its official X account. Now, the service will be operated using a Boeing 777-300ER. Well, that is all we are expecting. Well, that's not all we're expecting, but that's the much we can give, on the forecast. But of course, we'll be expecting much more stories that we will be dissecting, because that's our job here on RDA. So we dissect the stories, and we're hoping that we have more positive stories than negative. Because in Nigeria, you don't know what to expect.
A thing now, right?
Yeah. It is.
Oh, come on.
But it's been a very beautiful show. Thanks to Perpetual, of course, and Bernard for giving us the update on both crucial stories.
Do have a great week. Bye.
Blessings, Musugu.
And I am Nyesom Wike.